Imagine this. You're standing on a dusty Greek plain. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, leather, and iron. The year is 480 BC. In front of you is a narrow mountain pass, with a steep cliff on one side and the roaring sea on the other. And on this path, 300 Spartan studs, in skimpy leather briefs and ridiculously cool red capes, are forming a wall with their shields. On the other side of this wall is the Persian Empire's army, 1,000,000 strong, a black sea of soldiers stretching to the horizon. What was the Spartans' mission? Simple. Stand here, don't move, and fight anyone who tries to get past until the last man falls. No tricks, no schemes, no, hey, maybe we should sneak around the back. Plan B. Their entire philosophy of war was written on their 8-pack abs. We are the wall, you are the wave. So let's smash into each other and see who breaks first. This was the Battle of Thermopylae. You definitely know this story. It's basically the West's poster child for courage and confrontation. Okay, now, let's hit the pause button on history. Give the globe a spin, and fast forward a few hundred years. We arrive at the year 208 AD, on a wide river in China called the Yangtze. This scene is not so straightforward. A powerful northern warlord, Cao Cao, is leading a massive army of a supposed 800,000 men on thousands of ships, sailing downstream to conquer and unify the land. On the other side of the river, two weaker southern warlords, Sun Quan and Liu Bei, who scraped together an army of maybe 50,000. Their odds were even worse than the Spartans. Logically, this fight was impossible, but the result? In a single night, Cao Cao's entire fleet was turned into a sea of fire, his massive army utterly annihilated. How did the Southern Alliance pull it off? Did they form a 50,000-man death squad for a head-on charge? Nope. The way they won was, let's be honest, a little sneaky. First, they sent a general to fake a surrender, making Cao Cao drop his guard. Then, they used meteorology to predict that on a certain day, the wind would change direction. Finally, on a pitch-black night, they sent a few dozen small boats filled with dry reeds and sulfur, sailing with the wind, pretending to be supply ships, and crashed them into Cao Cao's fleet, which he had chained together. Boom! A wall of fire. No clash of muscles, no grinding of shields. One side didn't even know what hit them before the war was already over. This was the Battle of Red Cliffs. All right, friends, here's the question. Why? Why did two legendary underdog victories unfold in such radically different ways? One side chose to become a glorious human wall. The other orchestrated a nearly perfect magic trick. Is this just about different tactics? No. This is about two civilizations preloaded with two completely different operating systems for the human brain. These two systems determine the fundamental ways they see the world, resolve conflicts, and ultimately achieve victory. One, I call the boxer. His goal is clear, his footwork is linear, and he seeks to knock his opponent out with the most powerful direct punch possible. The other, I call the go master. In his eyes, there is no single opponent, only a grid of intersecting lines. He's not looking for a knockout punch. He's looking to use strategy, influence, and encirclement to leave his opponent with nowhere left to go, often without them even realizing it. And the psychological and philosophical code hidden behind these two models might explain our complex modern world and even yourself more than you can possibly imagine. Exploring the psychological codes hidden in the wrinkles of history and making it fun and understandable is my passion. But let's be real, it's also a ton of work. If you're enjoying our little club of brain detectives so far, I'm hoping you could use your lightning-fast finger to gently jab that like button, and then use a go strategy to completely encircle the subscribe button. For me, that would be even better than winning the Battle of Red Cliffs. Thanks a bunch. Okay, let's get back to the main story. To solve this thousand-year-old mystery, we need a clear roadmap, right? To give your brain a heads up, we're going to do this in 3 steps, just like a detective case, peeling back the layers one by one. First, we'll step into the boxing ring with our muscular boxer and figure out what makes this Western linear way of war tick. Second, we'll sit down at the board, pour a cup of tea for our inscrutable Go master, and appreciate the subtle genius of the Eastern web-like art of war. And finally, the best part, we'll see what happens when the boxer and the Go master meet in the modern world, and whether these two mindsets are living inside our own heads, fighting each other every single day. Ready? Okay, first up, let's step into the ring of blood and glory. All right, folks, got your Coke and popcorn ready? Let's serve up the first main course, this muscle-bound boxer, with nothing but victory in his eyes. To understand the boxer, we have to go back to that dusty, glorious pass at Thermopylae. Look at those 300 Spartans. That shield wall they formed wasn't just a tactic. It was a philosophical statement. Their philosophy was simple. Take war, the most chaotic and complex thing in the world, and reduce it to the simplest, purest physics problem. Namely, whose wall has more force behind it? Mine or yours? This head-on, smash-mouth mentality is practically baked into the DNA of the Western way of war. If you follow history, you'll see that the boxer just changes his clothes, but his fighting style never changes. After the Spartans came the Romans. The Roman legions took the decisive battle from a passionate art form and turned it into a standardized, repeatable science. They weren't tall, and their swords were short, but they arranged themselves in brick-like formations and just pushed forward, step by step. They were like a giant human steamroller. Their logic was crystal clear. No matter how fancy your tactics are, I'm just going to use my impenetrable iron turtle formation and slowly grind you down until you're dust. See? Still a boxer, just one who started to focus on scientific training and standardized moves. Centuries later, a short French guy named Napoleon shows up, and he gives the boxer a powerful new pair of boxing gloves, cannons. What was the essence of Napoleon's tactics? He would use dozens, sometimes hundreds, of cannons to hammer one single point in the enemy line for hours. Once that spot was pulverized and the enemy's morale was shattered, he'd send in his elite cavalry and infantry like a dagger through the gap to deliver the fatal blow. You see, from the Spartan shield wall to the Roman phalanx to Napoleon's cannons, the form keeps changing, but the underlying operating system never does. Its core command is singular. Find your enemy's weak spot, and then hit it with everything you've got. So the question is, why? Why is this mindset so deeply rooted in the West? For that, we have to go back to their intellectual source code, those old guys in robes from ancient Greece. This logic of war was actually developed by the same people who gave us geometry and the syllogism. You've definitely heard Aristotle's classic syllogism: all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. See what's happening? It's a crystal clear, straight line from A to B to C. There's no maybe, no perhaps, no it depends. There is only one cold, inevitable, single answer. This way of thinking is linear logic. Now, apply this mindset to war, and you get a very interesting war syllogism. Major premise: the enemy is a problem blocking my objective. A. Minor premise: a decisive battle can physically eliminate the enemy. B. Conclusion: therefore, I must seek a decisive battle to solve the problem. C. See what I mean? In the boxer's mind, war isn't some mystical art. It's a giant, real-world math problem that needs to be solved. And the decisive battle is the one and only correct answer. And you can definitely understand this way of thinking, because it has permeated every aspect of our modern lives. Think about almost every Hollywood superhero movie you've ever seen. No matter how complicated the plot or the villain's scheme, what's the final outcome? It's always Iron Man and Thanos, or Superman and General Zod, finding a spot, clearing the area, and having a one-on-one, city-destroying, head-on showdown. Have you ever seen a superhero spend 2 years using corporate espionage to bankrupt the villain's company until the villain has a mental breakdown because he can't pay his health insurance? No. Why? Because it's not satisfying, it's not direct, and it doesn't feed our deep-seated desire to see a problem solved. This thinking dominates the Western business world. What's the buzzword in Silicon Valley? Disruptive innovation. It means, I'm going to use one killer app, one game-changing product, and like a missile, I will precisely destroy your entire industry and make you obsolete overnight. That is the Napoleonic tactic in the world of commerce. Even in our personal lives, the success strategies we're taught are the boxer's way. Set a clear, quantifiable, smart goal, and then use your massive willpower to overcome all obstacles and charge straight towards it. So, you see, this boxer is living all around us, and even inside of us. His world is clear, orderly, and full of problems and solutions. He is brave, focused, and goal-oriented. And in many situations, this operating system is incredibly effective. But it has one fatal weakness. It operates on a single assumption, that your opponent will agree to step into the boxing ring and fight you, fair and square. But what if your opponent has no intention of boxing with you? What if his philosophy in life isn't to solve the problem, but to make the problem itself meaningless? To understand that possibility, we have to leave the loud, adrenaline-fueled boxing ring and enter a room so quiet you can hear your own breathing. There, a game with completely different rules, and one that is far more ancient than boxing, is being played. All right, deep breath. Let go of that adrenaline rush from the boxing ring for a moment. Let your heart rate slow down. Welcome to a quiet room. There's no shouting, no sweat, only 2 players and a seemingly empty board made of 361 intersecting points. This is the game of Go. If you know a little about Go, you know that it and Western chess are practically 2 different species. The goal of chess, just like the boxer, is incredibly straightforward. Kill the enemy king. It's about killing. And Go? There is no king on the board, no queen. All the stones are equal. The goal is to surround, to claim more empty territory than your opponent. Its core is about survival and growth. This is the world of the Go master. The godfather of this world is Sun Tzu, the man who wrote The Art of War. In my opinion, he wasn't a general. He was the greatest master of war psychology of all time. And the most mind-blowing line in his book is, to subdue the enemy without fighting. The first time you hear that, you might think, isn't that a bit cowardly? How do you win without fighting? Actually, this is the very essence of the Go master's mindset. He doesn't mean let's not fight, peace and love everyone. He means, in a truly masterful war, the winner is decided long before the soldiers ever draw their swords. The fighting that comes after is just going through the motions. How do you do that? This requires understanding a concept that is both central and mystical in Eastern strategic thought, the character she. She is a difficult word to translate with a single English word. It's not power, and it's not energy. It's a kind of strategic potential, or a developing trend. Let me give you an analogy, and you'll get it. Imagine a 1-ton boulder sitting quietly on flat ground. Does it have power? Yes, but it's useless. It's a dead thing. But if you take that same boulder and painstakingly push it to the edge of a 10,000-foot cliff, so it's teetering on the brink. At that moment, what it possesses is she. You don't even need to push it. Maybe a gust of wind or a bird landing on it will be enough to send it crashing down the mountain with unstoppable force, destroying everything in its path. The masters of the art of war, what they pursue their entire lives is not to build bigger muscles, but to find the cliff that will give the boulder she, and then place it there. A go-master type of CEO, his first thought isn't to immediately develop a killer app to go head-to-head with a competitor. He might spend years quietly building the best supply chain, filing for patents no one else has thought of, and forming alliances with every potential partner. To the outside world, it looks like he's doing nothing. He's not making a profit, there's no buzz. But in reality, he is placing stones on the board, one by one. He is accumulating she. Then one day, when the time is right, all he needs is a gentle push, and that boulder will roll. And you only realize it when you're being flattened, that the entire board had already been filled with his influence, and you have nowhere left to move. So where does this patient, indirect big-picture thinking come from? For that, we have to talk about the philosophical root of the East, Taoism. If the boxer has the logician Aristotle standing behind him, then the go-master has Lao Tzu, the old master who rode a water buffalo and was said to have lived for hundreds of years. You can think of Taoist thought as a kind of physics of the universe, nature, and power. What does Taoism admire most? Water. Lao Tzu said, "Under heaven, nothing is more soft and yielding than water. Yet for attacking the hard and strong, nothing can surpass it." What he means is, there is nothing in the world more humble and soft than water. But when it comes to attacking something solid, nothing is better. Think about it. What does water do when it meets a giant rock? Does it gather all its strength and smash into it like a boxer? No. The water will gently flow around it, seep into it, run through its cracks, day after day, year after year. And the final result is that the water wears away the stone. The rock's sharp edges are smoothed, it turns to sand, but the water is still water. This non-contention, this acting in accordance with the flow, is the core of Taoist thought, known as Wu Wei. Wu Wei doesn't mean lying down and doing nothing. It means acting like water, using the least amount of energy to follow the great Shi of the universe to achieve your goal. You might be thinking this sounds a bit mystical, but you've likely experienced this state yourself. Have you ever been in a flow state? Maybe playing basketball or playing the piano. You enter a state where you forget yourself. You're not consciously thinking about the next step, but your body just naturally makes the perfect move. That feeling, that effortless feeling of being one with the world, is actually a taste of Wu Wei. Or, let's get more practical. How do you persuade a very stubborn family member? The boxer's approach is to have a huge argument, present the facts, lay out the logic, and it most likely ends with both people angry. And the go-master's approach? You might not confront them directly. You listen first, you understand. Then, you change the environment around them, show them different information, let them meet different people, subtly placing stones without them realizing it, until they eventually arrive at the conclusion you wanted them to reach on their own. You see, these two models are actually playing out in our lives every single day. It's Saturday afternoon here in Japan, a time when many people might choose to visit a shrine or a temple to find a moment of quiet in the bustling city. This search for balance is a living echo of the very philosophy we're talking about. So, now we've met our two contenders. One is the logical, goal-oriented boxer who seeks a head-on knockout. The other is the patient, subtle go-master who seeks to win by encirclement. Two completely different operating systems for the brain. So, the ultimate question is, what happens when they actually meet on the same field? What happens when the force of the boxer meets the water of the go-master? The answer to that question is written on the battlefields of the modern world. And that is exactly where we are headed next. This question doesn't require us to guess, because in the jungles of the 20th century, history has already written the brutal answer in blood and ink. That war was the Vietnam War. First, let's look at the boxer, the United States. It possessed the most powerful military in the world, the most advanced technology, helicopter gunships, napalm, a sky-darkening fleet of B-52 bombers. Its entire war machine was designed to find and win a large-scale, decisive battle, just like in World War II. It was searching the globe for an opponent it could knock out. And its opponent? The North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong guerrillas. They were the purest form of Go Masters. They had no tank divisions, no air superiority, but they had the jungle, they had tunnels, they had the patience to blend in with the civilian population. And most importantly, they had a deep understanding of Sun Tzu's strategy of avoiding the strong and attacking the weak. And so, an utterly absurd theater of war began to unfold. The U.S. military would arrive in helicopters, descending in a storm of noise and fury on an area they believed to be the main enemy force, ready for a boxing match. But they would find the ring empty. The opponents simply didn't show up. The Vietnamese soldiers, like water, had seeped into every corner of the jungle, disappearing into a network of tunnels. Then, when the American troops were exhausted and preparing to return to base, a single sniper shot would ring out from nowhere, taking down one of their soldiers. By the time the furious troops turned back, ready for a fight, the enemy had vanished again. The U.S. won every single direct confrontation, every single battle that could be measured by statistics. If the war was a boxing match, then on points, America won almost every round. But the problem was, the Vietnamese had no intention of boxing with them. They were playing Go, and the entire jungle and countryside of Vietnam was their board. Every tunnel they dug, every harassing raid, every act of psychological warfare was another stone being placed on the board. Their goal wasn't to destroy the U.S. military. It was to use protracted attrition, infiltration, and encirclement to allow the anti-war sentiment back in America to accumulate until that boulder on the cliff edge finally rolled. The final result, as we all know, is that the boxer, unable to find an opponent and bleeding continuously, eventually exhausted himself and gave up the fight, and the Go Master won the entire game. You see, this duel between the boxer and the Go Master isn't just about history or military strategy. It plays out every single day in our era. In the business world, a boxer company might pour all its resources into developing a killer product that can disrupt an industry, seeking to become famous overnight. But a Go Master company might not have a single dazzling product, but it will spend a decade silently building out its supply chains, controlling its distribution channels, and establishing its ecosystem of services. It is quietly placing its stones. By the time the boxer company enters the market with its new product, it discovers that all the good territory has already been claimed, and consumers have been surrounded by the competitor's ecosystem, with nowhere left to go. This model can even be used to examine our own lives. Think about how you set and accomplish your goals. Are you a boxer? On January 1st, do you set a huge resolution like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year, and then try to achieve it through sheer willpower and a burst of passion, only to feel ashamed after one indulgence in February and give up entirely? Or, have you ever tried the Go Master's way? You don't think about the final goal. Instead, you first set the board. You replace the junk food in your house with healthy snacks. You buy a nice set of workout clothes. You find a friend who enjoys exercise. You place the gym on your direct route home from work. What you're changing is your environment and the she. Eventually, going to the gym becomes the path of least resistance, something that happens naturally and effortlessly. All right, our journey today has taken us from the pass of Thermopylae in ancient Greece to the red cliffs of China, through the jungles of Vietnam, and finally, back into our own minds. What I want to say is by no means that the Go Master is superior to the boxer. These two mindsets are two of the most precious tools in the human intellectual toolbox. There is no good or bad. The boxer's focus, decisiveness, and power can help you break through deadlocks and overcome difficult challenges. And the Go Master's patience, vision, and flexibility can help you navigate complexity and have the last laugh. This world has too many problems that require us to stand up like a boxer, to face them directly, and to solve them. But at the same time, there are too many dilemmas that require us to step back like a Go Master, to see the whole picture, and to patiently wait for that moment when the wind changes direction. Here in Japan, the Saturday sun is beginning to set, and the day is about to enter a quiet end. As I close our conversation today, I want to say that inside each of our hearts, there lives a boxer and a Go Master. The true challenge of modern life is perhaps this: can you become that clear-headed, wise strategist who knows on which battlefield of life you should send in your thunderous boxer, and on which game board you should call upon your inscrutable Go Master? And so, our journey into the world of the boxer and the Go Master comes to a close. If you are still here with me, thank you. Truly. I know this was a topic with a lot of information, but I believe that it's by gazing into this grand history that we can more deeply understand ourselves. Creating these deep dives takes an immense amount of time and research, and your support is genuinely what makes it all possible. If you find value in these explorations and want to be a part of a community that isn't afraid to ask big questions, please consider subscribing to the channel. A simple like or a comment sharing your thoughts also goes a long way, and I do my best to read every single one. Here in Japan, the night has settled in, and the city is growing quiet. So wherever you are in the world, whether your day is just beginning or coming to an end, I want to wish you the very best. May you find peace and presence in your own story. Thank you again for sharing your time with me tonight. Sleep well, may your dreams be sweet, and good luck in all that you do. Good night.